Hi, my name's Pat Broughton and I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm proud to be part of the Sonata 5 project. When I first started working on these pieces, what I did was I sat down, pushed play on the stereo, and just had a pen and paper with me to take notes with. And I kind of just jotted down the first words that popped into my mind. I'll start with the first piece. This is the piece for movement 1. What I noticed initially was the sort of tinkling piano in the piece, and as I listened to sort of the way that the notes progressed, I thought of sort of like small organisms kind of flitting around, little bugs and pieces of pollen and whatnot, and sort of I envisioned this sort of organized chaos where there was natural order to what was going on. The other thing that I thought of was in the way that the notes were progressing, it made me think of light waves, not just from the sound of the notes, but even looking at the sheet music, how it kind of went up and down and undulated. So that got me thinking of light shining off things and maybe like a sunny spring morning. And so that's sort of how I chose the color palette, was that I wanted to almost look overexposed, or like sunlight was shining really brightly off of surfaces. Then listened to movement 2, which is this piece. I noticed that it was sort of like this continual building up and breaking down is what the music was doing, and the word disassemble popped into my head, and that's what this piece is called. So whereas you had this sort of organized chaos in the first movement, I thought that you had sort of just almost complete disorder in the second movement. And I also felt that the second movement was more direct, and I was trying to have a little bit simpler of a composition to sort of reinforce that feeling with this piece. So the third piece, which is this one, it's pretty evident, I think, when you look at all four of them, that this one is the most different. And I felt like musically the third movement was also the most different. If this piece could be akin to sort of like a bomb going off or an explosion, then this would be like sort of the debris left afterward. When I heard it, I just immediately envisioned sort of things floating down slowly. So that's really kind of what I tried to depict. The music itself was quite a bit more sparse, so I tried to echo that with what I was showing on the paper. There was also sort of an air of mystery, I thought, to the movement. And so for that reason, I also chose to use a different medium in the third piece than I did the other three, which was the chalk pastel. I thought that sort of having those hazy edges sort of echoed that feeling of mystery a little bit. So finally, the fourth movement, I thought that it was a bit of a return to what was going on in the first movement, and that maybe what it felt like was whatever process we were sort of witnessing with the first movement was sort of now being repeated in the fourth movement, but in sort of a mutated way. And I also thought that there was a little bit more of an underlying feeling of unease in the fourth movement, so that's what I tried to depict here. When I first started trying to do some preparatory sketches for these pieces, and I was going to have like an even larger variety of random made-up objects floating around, and I sketched out a whole lot of different things, and I wanted them all to be explicitly nondescript and sort of cryptic in what they were. The only ones that I really liked were these three-pronged things here, and you'll notice that those are featured in all the pieces. And they're not necessarily meant to be anything specific, but one thing that occurred to me as I was working on the pieces was they sort of look like mutated musical notes, or like some sort of deformed musical note, and so that made me like them even more. So they became sort of a central focus of all of the pieces. But yeah, I'm aiming to sort of have each one of these pieces be sort of a window into an invisible world.